ladies and gentlemen. We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I'm going to bring him up in a second. And I got to do my little quick announcement, because my team wears me out about this all the time. If you get value in what you hear today and you're not subscribed, you guys subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. And then also one more quick reminder, my weekly newsletter drops every single Wednesday. So it dropped yesterday. But if you want to get in on it, you guys, I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com because I believe in a merit-based system out there. And if you guys want to receive my newsletter, I want you guys to get it. I hate it when people fill up my inbox with a bunch of newsletters. And this is just the way. If you want to get it, drops every Wednesday. It's all freight related out there. We talk fuel prices, industry headlines. We're going to be doing some pricing components here coming up as well, and expand that out. But with that being said, you guys, networking is the most overlooked part of business. And it's one of those things that I never really took seriously earlier on in my career. And when I went out into business for myself, it was one of those things that I was like top of mind, right? Like, I have to make sure everybody knows who I am and what I do. And it is a very critical component to business. And my guest today, he was one of the first people to ever invite me to show this face in public after I started creating content out there. So I have Mr. Brad Reinhardt of the LTNA on the show today. So Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Dude, I'm ready to rock. I see that St. Louis Blues neon sign behind, and it's just the sign that the greatest sport ever is back in season, and that's the NHL, man.
I went to the Blues Blackhawks game last night, and the Blackhawks absolutely whooped us. So I'm a little hurt today. I'm a little hurt from the whooping we took.
Dude, it's there's something about hockey. I don't know if it's just because I have like ADD, but like I just love the constant action of it. It's one of the few sports that I can sit down and watch and not lose, not get bored with.
Absolutely, it's my love of all sports. I love the game, and thankfully my team finally, after 50 years, actually won one cup. So at least we got one. So,
dude, exactly. That's all you need, man. You just need one to start. But so, dude, like. I want to start this off. You've been on the show in the past, and like we were talking, I mean, the first time out in Austin, Texas, was the first LTNA conference that I had went to, and you had invited me to come out there and moderate a panel and everything, and it was like the first show that I was ever invited to come out and do, and but it's like, but before we get into any of that stuff, Brad, like, how'd you get your start in freight? Like, you've been in the industry for a while now. Kind of bring us up to speed with that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. I got out of college back in beautiful 1992 with that incredible business administration degree, which just opens the world to you of, being an expert at almost nothing. And so I fell into, the logistics industry, took an interview with, a company my dad knew, of course, how we all end up, knowing somebody. Became a broker for about a year. And then I started a trucking terminal at like the age of 24 for a company in St. Louis. Had no clue what I was doing, but faked it enough for about 14 years, got burnt out there a little bit, decided to jump into warehousing, which again, I had no clue what I was doing. Did that for about 7 years. And then with a business partner of mine, decided to start a third-party logistics company. Been doing that for, 15, 20 years now. But like in that, that first 15 years of my career, I really didn't do much networking. I really didn't know there was organizations out there. There wasn't clubs out there. It really wasn't until I got into that warehouse sales role where I realized I was in trouble. Like I needed to find customers. I really didn't know how the hell to do it. And, a letter came into the mail announcing a St. Louis CSCMP happy hour, or no, it was a speaking luncheon. I rolled in not knowing anybody and it's kind of like the whole rest is history. I just kind of, the light bulb went off that networking is super important in my career, and everything really took off from there.
Do you think that will become the skill set of the future? And I say that because there is, yeah, automation's great. It has its place out there, and I'm not here to talk about that, but everybody wants, like they overlook that component of that personable skills of like relationship building, because technology and so many things can only get you so far, but like getting to know people throughout time, I think like that's where a lot of the deals are really made out there, because it's like I cold call for a living, right? Like I'm out here cold calling people every day. They don't know me from the next 47 calls that they get that day. But it's like, you got to do a little bit more to stand out in a crowd. And I feel like we're at the cusp of over automation. It hasn't started really yet. People are starting to, AI dialers, AI business development, all of that stuff. And I think that's going to be a wave that's going to take off probably for the next 5 years. But I think there's going to be a major opportunity on the horizon. And this is a strategy that we're implementing it's like, no, I want to show up at places. I want to meet people. I just want you to see I'm a real person. And I think like an area in my career, early on, like I didn't network with anybody because like I worked for a large company. I thought like, oh, everybody knows who I am because I work at this 3-letter, brokerage out there and everything else. But I came to realize early when I went out on my own, nobody knew who I was, and that was a problem.
Yeah.
And I needed to do something about it. And it's in the middle of 2020, so obviously nobody was traveling, and I just tried to set up as many Zoom meetings as possible. And it was also another kind of driving force behind starting the show when I did over 5 years ago is like, I want to interview anybody and everybody who works in the industry, because it's just a great way to network. And it is like that's a superpower that I truly feel like I possess now, Brad, is like, I've met so many great people out there, and it's not like we have working relationships and everything, but I know people in a lot of different sectors, like where if I have somebody come to me about a question about insurance and stuff like that, or, they need hazmat something or air freight, like I know where to point these individuals. And I feel like that's such an overlooked skill set in today's environment.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's almost like, the networking side of it's kind of come full circle, I guess, because before the internet and social media and all these tools, you had to take your customer out. You had to go to conferences. You had to go to annual dinners so to meet people, you had to go knock on doors. You could cold call, but most of it was you had to meet that person and know that person to get that job there wasn't no, filling out on LinkedIn or in Indeed or something like that to get that job. You had to know somebody to do it. So networking wasn't even, it's just what you did.
Yeah.
You met that transportation manager, everybody knew you. Now social, this social media and stuff like that has, it's been a positive and a negative. It's very cool that I can talk to somebody in Singapore or that, and we can form that relationship, and we can have a Zoom call, twice a week and get that relationship. But what I think it has done, excuse me, is that one-on-one relationship of having a coffee with somebody or starting the relationship as a relationship and let it grow into a business relationship. I tell people all the time, like, if you only know the people in that work in the cubicle around you, if you lose your job, you're in trouble because your network's way too small. Like, you have to be able to, pick up the phone and call some people and say, hey, I need some help. You have to have a reputation because, with the day and age of a bot looking at everybody's resumes, and to get to that final, HR person that's actually going to talk to you. But more times than not, you get that job because somebody knows you, or you get that customer, or you find that vendor because you have that relationship with them. To me, most companies, whether you're third-party logistics or a trucking company, we all have the same bells and whistles now. We all do the exact same thing. Like, we can talk a great game and we can promise different things. But at the end of the day, most of our companies do almost the exact same thing. So people want to do business with people they like, people they know, and stuff like that. So I just think it's such a powerful tool to have, to spend some extra time, whether it's 2 hours a month or craziness like me, where I seem like I'm in an event every single day, whether it's here in St. Louis or around the country. But it's really how I built my personal brand. But yeah, and you're not only like building your company's brand when you're out there, which you want to do. That's where your ROI, which I'm not a big fan of those three letters, but you know, you're out there promoting your company, but at the end of the day, you're out there building your personal brand. And, you know, you don't want to start networking the day after you lose your job. You want to already have your personal group of people out there that you can reach out to. And when you walk into that networking event or you walk into that interview, you know somebody at that company or, you know, that has, you know, done business with them. And I think that's the strongest thing we can do for not only our companies, but ourselves.
No, absolutely. Allison Tuttle says, she says, I'm taking a shot here at networking, putting myself out there. She has experience in logistics and customer support, organized, tech savvy, and great with customers. If you guys know of any remote roles, she would love to connect with you. She says her resume is available upon request.
And that's exactly what I think you got to do, just to jump in right there. You know, I've had a lot of people through the years tell me, listen, I just lost my job, but don't really tell anybody. I'm kind of embarrassed. And I'm like, you have to let everybody know. You have to ask people outside the industry, inside the industry, ask for help, get your voice out there, do exactly what she did. That is perfect. You have to ask for help, especially in the, you know, the age we're in right now and where our industry's at.
No, I agree. Right. And I think that it's one of those things, and you know, it is uncomfortable at first when you've never done anything like that before, if you've never networked before. And, you know, I look at it is, you know, joining something like, you know, here's a great segue, and this is why I'm a professional at this, you guys, joining something like the LTNA and getting out there in your local communities, meeting other transportation professionals, other business owners. And, you know, and just for context, I'm not overstating this at all, you guys. I have a Rolodex of friends of mine that own companies who are always looking for qualified people, right? Like they don't want to go through the job boards and everything else. And they're always in there. Hey, if anybody comes to you, let me know. And it's like, from my perspective, that's where you really have your opportunity to get out there, meet multiple business owners. When you're in an organization like the LTNA, go to some of these happy hours, and, you know, the conference that's going to be here in Phoenix. If you're in Arizona, in you know, the 12th through the 14th, you guys come out here and check this out, network with people. And that was like, I think my biggest takeaway, the first event that I went to when it was in Austin, Texas a few years ago, Brad, it was like the networking is insane. And we were talking before we got on the show, like I still talk to like 5 people that I met there still to this day. And it's been like 4 or 5 years now at this point since we were all out there, and they've turned into really good friends, really good resources. And, you know, whenever we're in each other's cities, we're always texting each other. Hey, I'm coming out there. Let's try and meet up, grab lunch, grab dinner, stuff like that. And it is. And I think a lot of it is it's not what can I get out of you? It's like, it's more of like building that community, you know, of like having those like-minded individuals who are on the same path, and you can just compare ideas with each other at the end of the day, right? Like, hey, here's what we're seeing in our business right now. What are you guys doing? And I think most people are shocked at how many people are willing to help if you are willing to ask for help.
Yep, definitely. So, you know, the LTNA, I'll kind of give a quick little history of, you know, where it came from and its whole world. So it's the national umbrella organization. We have close to 60 logistics and transportation clubs that are members in the US and Canada. So Seattle, Chicago, Toronto, you know, Savannah here in St. Louis, bunch of clubs. And it actually, you know, traffic and transportation clubs started back as early as 1903. Mm-hmm. So between 1903 and 1907, you know, clubs like Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, New York, they started. And then, and of course, back then they were all started by the railroads, because there wasn't highways, there wasn't trucks. Yeah. There wasn't this supply chain network we had now. If you got something, it came from first a ship and then a train. So in 1920, after there was probably about 20 to 30, you know, clubs in all these cities, the president of the then of the New York Traffic Club just kind of put it out there at their annual dinner. We really should form a national organization. So in 1922, at our first conference, the Associated Traffic Clubs of America was formed. Mm-hmm. So we probably changed names about 4 times since then. We were about 10 years or so ago, the Transportation Clubs International. When I became president in 2012, we changed it to LTNA. And our focus is not only supporting our clubs and promoting them, but just connecting everybody in logistics. Mm-hmm. It's free to be a member of LTNA. It's free to, our clubs don't pay any type of dues or anything like that. We have a full volunteer board. Like, it truly is to bring people together to start those relationships. And the conference we have, which you've already talked about, is exactly that. We keep it limited to, I don't know, about 150 or so companies and stuff like that, because we don't want you to walk in, especially if it's your first conference, that it's a sea of people. And, you're lucky if you meet 5 or 10 people at a big conference. And I love all those big conferences. I go to all of them. I'm a huge fan. We keep this one just a little different because it is so networking focused.
Yeah. And I think that is, because I've gone to a ton of shows now over the years, Brad, and they are overwhelming if you've never been to them. And I think like it is, and it's like, but there also has to be an ROI there too, yeah. Because it's tough. And I think like that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of attendees is like, hey, like it was a great show, but I don't know what I got out of it because there was almost like too much that's out there. And that's why it's, going to a conference, it's an investment, right? And I feel like a lot of people, I think the natural transition is you go, you party a little too much the first time you go to one, you wake up and you're like, shit, I don't know if I got the ROI I should have out of this one. I know that was definitely something that I may or may not have partook in, but now I approach it like a business, right? Like when I'm there, dude, I'm going through the attendee list. I'm checking out the speaker list. I'm trying to see who can I network with, who don't I know, who do I know that's going to be there? And it's a job when I'm there, right? Like, and especially, fortunately, a couple of the next shows that I'm going to are all here in Phoenix, so I don't have to leave. But like, if I'm traveling and away from my family, like I try and max out my days while I'm there. I want to meet with as many people as possible. I want to see as many sessions as possible, and I want to get that ROI. But I think like it's a good spot for people to start to go to a smaller event and really get because I look at it as a lot of people get burnt out with that stuff, right? They're like, oh, they get overwhelmed. They're like, oh, I don't want to go to that. And I feel like when you go to a smaller, more intimate one, or even one of the local meetups too, I see all the time. It's, whether it's in Nashville, Chicago, here in Arizona, stuff like that, people are meeting up on like a monthly basis. And there's, 20, 30 people at some of these happy hours and stuff. Go stop in there and try and find a familiar face before you go to one of these larger shows, because then you have that kind of that comfort level of, hey, at least I know one person there, if you're uncomfortable going into an environment where you've never met anybody.
Yeah. And I think that's where LTNA is absolutely perfect for people, on that mode. Cause we get a lot of, probably half the crowd is, repeat. So they've been there, it's a lot of C-level, a lot of owners, stuff like that, because it is a good time. We don't, we have speakers from like 9 to noon in the morning. And then we give you the afternoons to just hang out and meet with people. There's no breakout sessions. Everybody's listening to the same speakers. And it's a melting pot of everybody in the supply chain. So we have shippers, we have carriers, we have 3PLs, we have IT companies, we have attorneys. There's a lot of great companies that have supported us, the Lockheed Martins, Nutrabolt, Honest Trucking Company. I mean, he's, been incredible, comes all the time. We got, Angela from the Freight Fraud Task Force is coming out this year to talk about all the topics. So our speaker topics really touch on everything in the supply chain too. So maybe you're not on the shipper side, but you learn something from, Herb Hall from P&G, who's speaking this year on AI. You're going to learn something, might not touch your job direct, but you'll learn something about this whole supply chain. So it's not logistics focused. It's not transportation focused. It's really the whole industry.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think it's important, right? Like I have a unique perspective because, I have a podcast where people from all walks of the industry are on. So I can sit here and speak on the importance of is you need to understand that at some point your business or your customer might come to you with what you might learn at one of these like one of these shows from one of these, speakers and everything else. I mean, I know fraud is rampant right now, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff out there. And again, you might not know where to turn. You might not know what to do. You've been in that situation, or you're sitting there thinking like we're at risk for whatever freight that you're hauling. And these are those tips and tricks that you can learn in that application process inside of your business. And you need to go with an open mind to a lot of this stuff too. And I feel like the greatest killer of most businesses in today's environment is this is the way that we've always done things. And, learning from other people. And there's companies of all sizes who are speaking at this event, right? So it's like, I feel like it's very important that even if you are a smaller operation out there, go in and listen to what the larger companies are doing. You might not be able to apply that exact strategy, but there's going to be bits and pieces where you're like, I can start, I can start with that component of it. And, I look at it as I'm ironically out to Austin, Texas in a couple of weeks for the NMFTA. They're doing their annual cybersecurity conference that's out there. The first time I went, I was extremely overwhelmed on that. But then now I'm to a point where I'm like, I know exactly how to kind of work the room, but I also know that my biggest takeaway is a lot of the incident responses are having a plan. That's going to protect you like 90% of the way is having a plan. So I look at something like fraud and everything else that's going on out there, having a plan of what to do in the event it happens. You're already not, like I said, 90% ahead of where most people are who haven't even thought, or they're thinking that will never happen to us. We're too small.
Yeah. And that's where I think, like you said, that networking and knowing people, because now, I think a lot of organizations and stuff are kind of struggling with the conference model, having all day speakers and, because if you're paying attention to your emails every day or, incredible podcasts like yours every day, what's going on in the industry and all the news and stuff like that. So what are you going to take out of that conference? You might learn some new tidbits and you're going to hear what everything's doing it, but it's really building those relationships, meeting those people. So when you do get in that jam, or you're looking to hire somebody, or, hey, I just brought on this customer. I remember you said you used to deal with this customer. Can you give me some advice on it and something like that? It is really that networking and building your personal, just peeps in your world is really what you need to do.
No, absolutely. And especially if you're a broker or a trucking company and you're attending and you've never like sat down and had a conversation with a broker or with a trucking company, those are where this is where that stuff's going to happen. It's going to give you a better understanding and a better appreciation for what's going on out there and the importance of partnerships and collaboration, right? I know a lot of people talk about it and they'll post about relationships. This is how relationships are actually formulated. Is just go down, grab a coffee with somebody, just talk to them about what it is that they go through in their day-to-day out there. And it's just going to make you a more well-rounded individual. So with this event that's coming up here, Brad, what's one of the topics that you're the most excited about for people to learn?
It's such a great, we have so many topics. We got Watco coming in. They're going to do, just talk about the rail industry and stuff like that. We got risk strategies coming in, and they're just going to talk about all the risk and everything we're facing and stuff like that. So RXO is going to, they're coming in to, also talk about their side of the industry and everything like that. So, and it's, our topics are always so, we always kind of talk to our speakers about, it's really just an open talk with the audience. Mm-hmm. They do have a topic, but it's really just kind of a 3-hour think tank with a different person standing in front of the room that starts the conversation. But we really encourage it to be a conversation the whole time with everybody in the room. And, people in transportation and logistics, we love to talk. Yeah. So, it's really, you're not sitting there staring at somebody's PowerPoint that's just flipping through doing a commercial about their company or something like that. They're talking about a topic, but they're really talking with the audience about that topic. So I think that's where you can put your own idea into it and get direct feedback from not only the speaker, but Sally sitting over to your left, or, Larry from Toronto, that, since they're in Canada, they got a totally different viewpoint than what we might have to do, what we might be going through in the States and stuff like that. So to me, I don't think it's really a topic I'm looking forward to. It's just sponging on all these different personalities and different aspects of the industry, and kind of what they're not only battling, but what their successes are. People, we can all talk doom and gloom right now because there's a lot of it, but there's also a lot of great things going on and companies that are having success, and just learning about that. And, a lot of people are, as honest as you are every single day on your podcast with, hey, these are my thoughts, these are my feelings, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm sharing it with you so you can give me feedback, but just, give that honest approach of what's going on. And I think people that start networking and start coming to events like this are kind of surprised on how open everybody is, to where it's not secretive. I bring my customers, I bring my carriers. To me, you got to have that trust to bring them. But in this day and age, everybody knows everybody, and I'm perfectly fine with that, because it's just, I can learn and meet new people at it just like everybody else.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think, it's easy to talk about the doom and gloom in this industry. And a lot of people like to wallow in that because it gets a lot of attention and traction out there on social media. But there's also a large group of people out here who are approaching this as is like, what can I learn? How do I get better?
Yeah.
And, that's my thing is people are growing out there right now, right? They're succeeding out there. They're making it work. And sometimes the greatest value in a down market or in times like this is knowing what not to do.
Yeah.
And I know that is one of those overlooked aspects of business and life too. And that's one thing that I've mentioned on the show numerous times. I'm at a point in my life, Brad, where I think it's almost more valuable to know what not to do than what to do. And when you're out there and you're learning those situations right now in a down market, one thing that we're looking at is like, it's fortunate for us inside of my organization where we're starting to implement a lot more automation inside of things, right? Like we're using a CRM for the first time now in the entirety of my business. And I'm seeing the absolute value and coming along with it. And it's like, okay, we're not as busy as I'd like to be, but like, I'm also very fortunate that this is where we are. And I see the value in this experience right now. And how can I find a way to win? Because it's not always going to be like this. And when that fire hose of freight eventually hits my organization, we're going to be able to hit the ground running. We're going to be able to execute upon it. So that's how we're approaching it from more of a strategic standpoint, from more of a system standpoint, because I think like that's one of the biggest hurdles that we overcame. And a lot of startups have to overcome is going from throwing darts in every single direction, hoping one sticks, to, hey, we got some serious proof of concept here. How do we systemize this thing and pour some gasoline on this fire so we can blow this thing up?
100%.
In a good way, not blow it up in a bad way.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of companies blowing up right now. So but you want it to be in a positive way for sure.
No, absolutely, Brad. And well, hey, I appreciate you joining me here. How does anybody reach out to you guys about coming to the show here in Phoenix or joining the LTNA overall?
Yeah, I mean, it's LTNA.org. It's very simple. So if you have an organization out there that you want to join, please reach out to me. We'll get you hooked up. If you're in a city that doesn't have a logistics or transportation club, please let me know. I got a great blueprint how we can get these started. We just started the Phoenix one 2 years ago. Kansas City, Nashville. We've had a bunch start in the last few years. It's pretty easy to do. And like I said, it's free. We're all volunteers and we're just here to help. And everything we're doing at this conference and the golf tournament goes to support Troops 2 Logistics. So you can check them out at troops2logistics.org also. So please check them out. And if you can come to Phoenix, we'd love you. So we got people coming from the US and Canada all around the country.
No, I love it. Brad, thank you so much for that.
I appreciate this.
No, absolutely, man. If you guys can't find Brad or the LTNA or Troops 2 Logistics, I put the links to both the conference and Troops 2 Logistics over on the YouTube channel. If you guys want, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them all over there if you guys can't find it. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane